A lot of people assume that Vince McMahon, even though all evidence points to the fact that he is done, he is gone, from WWE and TKO, a lot of people still feel that he has his pulse on the product. And all because certain individuals, like say a Bruce Pritchard, is still involved creatively. And if that's how they feel, that's fine. Let them feel that way. But when you get down to it though, there is no denying that when you look all around WWE, you see basically, I should say, that there is a definite change in the product. There's definitely a change in the product. From, from showing when talent shows up at the building, the times, to showing how long a talent has been in the Royal Rumble, what their stats are, courtesy of WWE 2K24 Total Elimination Chamber, and so on. You see the definite change. You see it. And it shouldn't be more evident than just year's Hall of Fame. Because some of the names in here, let's be honest, if Vince McMahon was still running this, they wouldn't even be considered for a single induction, I should say, a singular induction into the Hall of Fame. They wouldn't be considered for that. Instead, they might be considered as members, to be included into the legacy wing, which they created years ago, and they haven't used, I will admit, for at least 2 years. They didn't use it in 2022, and they didn't use it in 2023. But it is there, and it's something that they can always go back to if they want to add and induct more people, but they don't want to basically do so many individual introductions. But yeah, some of these names, honestly, would be in the legacy wing, if Vince McMahon was still in charge. Names like Bull Nakano, names like Thunderbolt Patterson. Heck, even the U.S. Express, that might have been an exception even with Vince, though. The U.S. Express would be put into the legacy wing. The only exception straight out that would have been inducted, even under Vince's watch, would be Paul Heyman and Muhammad Ali. The other ones, like I mentioned, would be legacy wing bound, and nothing more. But the other reason that, Vince is not in charge anymore, and Triple H, and to an extent, The Rock are, is you have Bull Nakano going in. Never once did you ever have a Joshi wrestler get inducted into the Hall of Fame of WWE. And they've had numerous opportunities to do so. Not just for WWE, but for WCW. They've had numerous times to do so. But they've never done it. They've had a chance to induct Akira Hokuto, the lady that won the WCW Women's title, was the inaugural WCW Women's Champion. They could have done that. They didn't. They've had numerous times to induct the Jumping Bomb Angels. Never did that. And they've had numerous times to induct Bull Nakano in the past. Never did it. And why? Because Vince McMahon would not allow it to happen. He would not allow it to occur because it's not who he wants. It's not what, it's not who he wants. It's not who he feels, meets up with his standards. That's what it is. But this is proof, again, that things have changed because Triple H is the one running things. Triple H is the one that's saying, okay, I'm taking over the Hall of Fame now. I'm going to put in who I believe should have been put in long ago. And that's why you're seeing Bull Nakano get her own individual Hall of Fame induction. That's why you're seeing Thunderbolt Patterson, who never worked for WWE, maybe worked briefly, made an appearance or so for WWF, and even when it was known as Capital Wrestling, first, there's no doubt he's made appearances there under the WWF and Capital Wrestling, names. There's no doubt about that. But if Vince was still in charge, you can't tell me Vince would not even consider this guy for an individual induction. He would say, okay, yeah, Thunderbolt Patterson could go in, but he's going in along with some other names as part of the legacy wing. Yeah, that's where he belongs. That would be his mentality. That would be his mentality. Same with Bull Nakano. People could say, oh, Bull Nakano should go in the Hall of Fame. And Vince would be like, yeah, we'll put her in the Hall of Fame, but as part of the legacy wing. Yeah. Even though she's not dead. She's still alive. You know what I'm saying? But again, it's that kind of example, in my opinion, that shows you, that Vince is no longer running things, because again, these names that I just mentioned would not even be considered for individual inductions. They'd basically be out the window, and right into the legacy wing, if not considered at all. The U.S. Express of Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham, they might get inducted. They might be a consideration even under Vince, but that would take a lot of pull and a lot of persuasion to make that happen. But even they would probably end up, let's say, in the legacy wing or something like that, even though they're still alive, and all because they don't fit Vince's criteria of who should be a Hall of Famer. I mean, let's take a look at the legacy wing in the past couple of years, with the exception of 23 and 22. The legacy wing had Dick the Bruiser, Pistol Prez Waltzley, Buzz Sawyer, Ethel Johnson, and Paul Boris, if you will. These are people that got into the Hall of Fame because of the legacy wing. Then you had, before that, you had Crippler Ray Stevens, Brickhouse Brown, Dr. Death Steve Williams, Baron Michel Leon, and Gary Hart. And then if that's not enough, you had Bruiser Brody, Wahoo McDaniel, Luna Vachon, S.D. Jones, Professor Tanaki, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, Primo Camarera, Joseph Coron, Hishai Shimar, Buddy Rose, and Jim Barnett. And in the previous year before that, you had Sean Stasiak, Lord Alfred Hayes, Dara Singh, Cora Cobes, El Santos, the Golden Greek Jim Londons, Rufus R. Freight Train Jones, Spunik Monroe, Boris Malenko, and Hiro Machida, I think. Hiro Machida? Yeah, Hiro Machida, if you will. And then let's take a look at 2017. Martin Farmer Burns, June Byers, Haystacks Calhoun, the Barefoot Contessa Judy Gable, Dr. Jerry Graham, hello, somebody that Vince liked, Luther Lindsay, Toots Modent, the father of, Japanese wrestling, Ricky Dozan, Bearcat Wright. And then if that's not enough, Legacy Wing, Mildred Burke, Frank Gotch, George Hackenschmidt, Ed Strangler Lewis, Pat O'Connor, Lou Thez, and Sailor Art Thomas. And that was the first year they did it. That was 2016. All those names that I just mentioned, some of them you hear and you're like, those should have their own individual inductions, right? Well, guess what? When Vince was in charge, he didn't see it that way. He didn't care about, the impact any of these names had. He didn't care. If they didn't work for him or his father, straight up, he didn't care. All he cared about was who he wanted. And that was it. I mean, I look at all these names now, from Gotch to Hackenschmidt to Ed Lewis to O'Connor, Thez, Burke. I see those in the next couple of years getting their own individual inductions, making up for the Legacy Wing deal. That's what I see. I can see the same thing with Haystacks Calhoun. I can see the same things with Judy Gable, Jerry Graham, believe it or not. Bearcat Wright, Ricky Dozan. I can see all of them getting their own individual introductions in the years to come to make up for the Legacy Wing inductions. Same with Sean Stasiak. Same with Lord Alfred Hayes. Jim Lundus. I could see that. Boris Malenko. Hiro Machida. I could see that. And then the Legacy Ring members of 2019, Bruiser Brody? Luna for Sean Wahoo McDaniel? You know, I mean, come on. Buddy Rose? S.D. Jones? And then in 2020, you had what? Cripple Ray Stevens? Brickhouse Brown? You know, Dr. Death Steve Williams? Gary Hart? I mean, these are some notable names that should have had their own individual introduction into the WWE Hall of Fame long ago. They've already had their own individual inductions into the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. Why not here? And this is supposed to be more prestigious than the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. And then the last year they did this, like I said, Duke the Bruiser, Pistol Prez Wassley, Buzz Sawyer, Ethel Johnson, Paul Bosch. I mean, Dick the Bruiser, Pistol Pez, Buzz Sawyer, come on. You know, who are you kidding? Who are you kidding here? These are names that they should, WWE now under the TKO banner and Triple H running things along with The Rock by extension, should basically make up for all this in the next coming years. They should look at all those names, those notable names in the legacy ring and say, it's time to give them their own individual introductions. They've earned it. Because at the end of the day, we all know that these, you know, legacy ring inductions were all Vince's idea. He's like, okay, fine, we'll put them in there, but we'll do it this way. It's time for things to change, and you're starting to notice a change this year with Triple H being in charge of the Hall of Fame along with The Rock. But give me your